Alrighty. Alrighty. Looks like I'm live, I think. It says I'm live. It says I've already got one like before I've even started the stream. Oh, that is something else. You guys are hilarious. Hello. I think you're Yubi if I'm remembering correctly. I'm doing great. I was having a lot of fun on Persona 5 Royal tonight. It's a bit challenging at one point because I misunderstood the layout of the dungeon, but thankfully, after a walkthrough, clarified that I had to go in through another entrance. Then it became much, much easier. So today has been just a very relaxing day. Hey there, Jevil. You must be stuck in Groundhog Day because that's the third time you've mentioned eShop maintenance. Well, I already know how you're doing, so congratulations on being able to get the expansion. I really hope you enjoy the N64 games. Oh, playing games for a charity. That sounds cool. Hope you have a good. Uh, how do you word that? Hope you have a successful charity. There you go. So what's the name of the charity? So tomorrow in North America, we are finally going to be voting. And then you're probably earlier than me, JP. Welcome in. Glad you could make it. Hello there, Orville. Glad to know that you still respect me enough to call me a nerd. I am very honored by that. What is up is I was so happy to have a day off today. My gosh, I felt so tired yesterday. I'm still kind of tired today, but I will persevere through it for the sake of you guys. I almost forgot a drink, so I'm going to get that real quick, say the warning, and then I'll be right back. Okie dokie, I am back. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's right. Nerds is a type of Halloween candy. Extra life. Oh, that's cool. That's like the name of a power up in Mario. All right, let me do the usual warning about political correctness here. Or hold on a sec, guys. I'm typing this. Politically correct. If you're I suggest you go elsewhere. Okay, there we go. Now I just got to pin this, and then we're all set. Okay, there we go. I still got to get used to this whole streaming thing. It's still so surreal that my friends like want me to stream enough where I can do it regularly. It just, I don't know, something about it just feels Like, I sort of never thought that this would become a regular thing. Good one, Orville. Uh, I think I already say how I was doing? Well, I'll say it again because Paggle just got here. Welcome in, Paggle. Glad you could make it for a very thrown together stream. I didn't even have a chance to comb my hair. I was like, shoot, I got to get used to streaming. That's like a regular thing that I do now. Anyway, how's your day been going so far, Peggle? To answer inevitably your question and also Orville's, I was playing a lot of Persona 5 Royal, and it's been a blast so far. I don't know if I like it as much as Persona 5 Strikers because that game is more action oriented than this, but it's good enough. You know, it has RPG elements, it has social sim elements that kind of remind me a little bit of Three Houses. It gets the job done. You woke up an hour ago? How the heck are you still like able to focus on this stream? Yeah, I'm a little bit tired because I was stuck on this part in Persona 5 Royal, and Mondays are usually my days where I just take the whole day to myself. But then I wasn't expecting that I had to stream, so I'm like having to all of a sudden cram all of this social energy into my brain to be like, oh shoot, I gotta entertain an audience. So hopefully one of these days I'll get used to that because I'm a very routine oriented guy. I like to do things on a strict schedule, but a lot of times it takes me a little bit of an adjustment to get to the point where I'm accustomed to my new schedule because for so long Mondays would be the day off. So now I have to get used to Mondays being the day off, but the evening on. Oh, I haven't forgotten tomorrow. I wrote that on my calendar. When it comes to things that are special that involve friends, I don't forget about that stuff because friends are a big deal to me. At least I think we're friends. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think we are. And not only that, but it's an opportunity for a collaboration and it's an opportunity for me to talk about Paper Mario 2. So, of course, I'm going to be happy and excited about that. But when you're your own worst critic and you think, okay, somehow people like all this stuff, then it's a little bit harder to remember to do something that you're not entirely sure if it's going to. That's a long run-on sentence, and my numbers are rapidly dwindling. Either that or YouTube is just being like a ghost. Because like one time it said that there was only one person watching, but then like 5 people were in the chat. So I don't know. I don't really trust the numbers anymore. I just say, if people are want to chat or lurk, that's fine by me. Oh yeah, I love being a nerd. I actually never found out, or not so much found out, I never got why that was such an insult because I've loved video games for most of my life. And I always thought that the people that called gamers nerds were the people that didn't understand video games to begin with. Now, granted, there was a brief period of my life where I sort of got out of video games, but then I started learning about the necessity for balance. And then eventually, I started getting a job. And so a job meant that I had to time when I played video games more. So tomorrow, I'm probably only going to be playing my games at night because I have to work and vote. Yes, Americans are doing, it's hard to explain. It's not the presidential election, but it's like electing minor government officials and voting for proposals. Like this is where people vote yes or no for proposal 3, for example, and proposals 1 and 2, but most Americans don't really talk about that stuff. Midterms, that's the word. Thank you, JP. Yeah, my parents are getting up at 7 in the morning to do it. I thought, eh, I am get up when I want to get up. Interesting. I did not know that about Australia. That is very interesting. Well, I think I think in the Catholic Church you're supposed to vote just because not voting is essentially giving an opportunity for the opposite party to wreak havoc. I forgot the exact wording for that. I'll have to look that up. I think what we did during COVID was we had what was called an absentee ballot, where we just mailed it in. I'm going to plug in my computer real quick, guys. So if you see a lot of shifting around, that's why. Because I don't want this thing to go out on you guys. I don't think it will because I have battery saver on. But then again, considering that I've sort of been out of it for most of the day, I may very well have a little bit of a forgetful spell. And I'm not normally the forgetful type. That's the weird thing. Maybe it's because I'm getting older and so I'm starting to lose my mind a bit. I don't know. Really forgetful in matters that relate to myself as opposed I don't really forget about things like hangout. Again, because it's not a regular thing and because it doesn't involve me being loyal to someone. I guess an alternate way of wording it would be in these streams, you guys are coming to see me, whereas when I'm hanging out with a friend, I'm coming to see that friend to get something out of the hangout. So I guess if I'm getting something from someone, it's easier for me to remember. But if that person is getting something from me, then I have to think about that because it's like, oh, I can give stuff to people. That's cool. Hello there, Caitlin. Glad you could make it in. I'm really glad you could make it on the Discord because now I think the only person you wouldn't know in this chat is JP, but even then, I think you've seen him around in this chat. So, yes, you should know everybody. Drake got fined $70. Wow, that's crazy. If you say so, Jevil. If you say so, we shall see. So what's your has does anyone have any big news to share with me? Javel, you've already said you're going to get the expansion once the eShop's finished maintenance, but what about everything else? It doesn't have to be good news. It could also be bad news that's big that maybe you want insight on. I mean, hey, sometimes bad news can turn into good news. So, y- how do I word this? Like when my grandma died, obviously that was bad news. But it also gave me perspective on like death and how to handle grief. And I think that probably helped me to be able to help those who are maybe considerably more emotional than I am and who'd be like, I don't know, pounding their pillows and screaming and crying when someone dies. And I might be like, I went through it. Let me tell you, you don't need all that excess emotion. I can help you to be able to do something productive with your anger. Oh, yes, you do need to redo that list. Indeed. I'm looking forward to the redo where it says Super Mario Odyssey, Paper Mario, nothing else. Sonic Frontiers is tomorrow? I thought it was the 9th. Who's Choo Choo Charles? Never heard of him. Marvel Snap. Huh. Never heard of it. Unless you're talking about the Thanos snap. But other than that, yeah, I'm pretty out of the loop on Marvel stuff. I don't know why my face is suddenly so blue. Like this doesn't usually happen when I stream, so I don't know what's going on. What would I ask St. Paul? I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. Probably did I do the right thing? I guess. Welcome in, Matthew. Glad you could make it. I'm really glad that we were able to play Mario Party Superstars together. That was a lot of fun. I've been playing so much Mario Party and Mario Party 2 with computer opponents over the past few days that it was nice to actually have a human interaction. That would be Thanos' favorite game. That's pretty cool. So, Peggle, would you like to make a plug to the audience about the awesomeness of Super Mario Odyssey? All of that, and these guys just don't want to listen, or if they have, they haven't told me. So maybe they'll listen to you, maybe because one, you're a girl, and two, I guess girls are more persuasive when it comes to marketing. I actually did read that if a woman is on the cover of a product, it is actually 50% more likely for both a man and a woman to buy the product. I don't know why. Maybe girls just have an aesthetic appeal that guys lack. Maybe that's why, like, females that have YouTube channels that are based on gaming often have like so many subscribers that it's ridiculous, and like people flock to their streams because the feminine appeal is just so appealing to them for some reason. Well, hey, everyone has to start somewhere, Matthew. I'm sure when I first played Mario Party, I wasn't too great at it. One of the main reasons why I was so, well, I don't want to say I was terrific because I was lagging pretty behind for most of our match. The reason I was able to win so many of those mini games is because I had experience with them on the Nintendo 64. And so a lot of the strategies I used in the early games carried over into Superstars. The game just did such a good job of programming that it appealed to my muscle memory. And that's the mark of a great remake, when you feel like you can apply all of your old techniques to it. Mm, good one, Jevil. Toad. How are you doing, Toad? Toad A. Who says Toad A? Like, I'm pretty sure even the Australians would say today. I don't know what I would be considered at Fall Guys. I think adequate would probably be the right word. Then again, I haven't played it in a while, so maybe they've added new mini games since when I reviewed it. But I would say that I did come in first place the very first mini game that I tried. I've never gotten the crown after all of the mini games, but I think the farthest I got was like the fourth or the sixth mini game of the tournament. Oh, wow. A horror game made by one guy? That is so cool. Not that I really play horror games except for Doki Doki Literature Club, but I'm sure if it, how do I word this? It would have to really reinvent the genre to make me interested. Like in the case of Doki Doki Literature Club, that's a dating simulator. I do not like dating simulators. I think they're really stupid, and I think that they're primarily designed for desperate people who can't get a date in real life and they think that they have to pretend to get one in the virtual world. And I've never been that type of guy. I prefer to go out and get some real friends. And now I'm not saying that's what everyone thinks, because I'm sure some of you might be like, that's not what I do when I play dating sims. But the objective fact is that it is designed for those people. So even if you aren't like that, that just means you aren't the target audience. You just happen to enjoy a dating sim game. So I didn't mean to call out anyone who plays dating simulators. I'm just saying those are the types of people they appeal towards. So Doki Doki Literature Club, if I said why it's so great, it would probably be a spoiler, but it did things with the concept of calling itself a dating sim that appealed to my sensibilities of loving games like Banjo-Kazooie and Danganronpa, and that made it worth it for me. Below master, I'm not sure how to categorize that, but well, as long as you're good enough or you don't die in the first round and come in like 50th place and get eliminated in 2 seconds. Oh, I hope I didn't scare away Peggle. I really hope I didn't scare away Peggle because she kind of just disappeared. Oh man. My favorite pope? I don't really have a favorite pope. I think, they're the successors of St. Peter, so of course they'd be great. But I guess if I'd have to pick one, JP2 was pretty awesome because he did the theology of the body, which really helped put into perspective the church's teachings on the human body and how it's not meant to be something that's disgusting or shameful, but rather something to be appreciated and used in context, as opposed to being just simply a conduit for our pleasures. You watched my video about the friend zone? Oh, I'm glad you think so, Jevil. Yeah, most of my best female friends are either taken or they've explicitly expressed that they're not interested in either dating me or anyone at all. So that's totally fine by me because what would be the point of going further than friends if you're already so happy with where you're at? Constant companionship? I think I might get tired of their presence if I was around them too much. Having sex? Overrated. It could prove to be good if I ever wanted to start a family, but I don't know if I have the budget to want to take that responsibility yet. So it would be a more logical decision to just wait because there are things out there better than sex, I imagine. Like, I think I'd probably, obviously, I haven't had sex yet. So I don't know. Maybe it is really great. But personally, if you gave me a choice between sex, mission trip, Breath of the Wild 2, Persona 5, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take all of those. Leave sex behind. No thanks. Peggle, you do realize that this is your own fault. I've been suggesting so many masterpieces on the Switch, and you just refuse to play them. So I think if you I think if you gave yourself the time to take my suggestions, you would find that you have tons of good Switch games. Because I gave you money to buy Stanley Parable. You are already paying for the expansion, which has a ton of N64 games. You already got Paper Mario, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. Admittedly, play that after Ocarina of Time, but it still exists. Banjo Kazooie, uh, Mario Party games. There's a lot. Well, I wasn't intending to pull anyone in. I was just trying to raise awareness that romance isn't everything. Like, sure, God ordained romantic relationships, but some people are called to live the single life. Some people just can't handle being in a romantic relationship. And I just think there should be more people who are okay with being single in the moment and not feeling like they have to hurry up and get a date because if I'm not, then all the good people are going to be taken and I'm too old. And no, no, you're not. What matters is that you find the right person. And if you don't find the right person right away, maybe you just haven't met the right person yet. I know someone on one of my mission trips. JP, I think you know this person too. Her name was Shirley, and she got married. Actually, I think in her case, it was remarried. You'll have to correct me on that, JP. But yeah, and there was someone on one of our mission trips named Shirley. She was an adult chaperone, and she was in her, I think, either 60s or 70s. And she got married shortly after that mission trip. And if she can get married that late and still be happy, then I think that shows that true love waits. I'm sure Skyly appreciates you. Hello there, M. You're saying good night already? You're going to be running out before you've even talked? I mean, if you want to just run and jump out, that's totally fine by me. But either way, if you're going to stay, welcome in. Glad you could make it. What's been going on lately? She was one of your chaperones, JP? Oh, that's really cool. She was such an inspiration on that mission trip. Like, I think she was probably the oldest person on the whole trip. Yet she had so much energy. Your name is Victor, huh? Okay then, Victor, welcome in. Glad you could make it. Oh, Peggle, well, to be honest, I think I would probably, if I had the choice of all of the games that I listed to you, I think the only one I mentioned that I would play over Odyssey is the Stanley Parable. No, okay, Stanley Parable and Odyssey are great for different reasons. I think the Stanley Parable is funnier and it gives more insight into the world of video games and consumerism. But Super Mario Odyssey is more fun. Like you actually get to do stuff and jump around and explore. Stanley Parable is a game about listening, which I imagine will only appeal to certain people. Treasure. Oh, yes. A faithful friend is a sturdy shelter. Whoever has found one has found a treasure. That's a Bible verse that one of my friends told me. Oh, I hate racing the Koopas. I kind of just ignore all of them. That's what I like about Super Mario Odyssey is it gives you the opportunity to do things out of order, especially after you get to the post game, because then like a lot of moons open up that you couldn't get earlier. Sometimes I think it's kind of arbitrary, like, hey, this block appeared, and now that this block appeared, it made a moon available. I think personally that's just a cop out to make the game longer. But either way, it is nice that you can more or less play the game out of order, which is what I like to do. One time I actually forgot to do the storyline in one of the kingdoms. I think it was Steam Gardens was when I first went through that, I didn't actually face the boss. I just grabbed enough moons to get the Odyssey to the next kingdom. There's no such thing as a book of parables. Or were you just saying it is a parable that Jesus told? Yeah, Stanley Parable is definitely a game for slow people. It's the kind of game where rushing through the game defeats the purpose of why the game was made. And thankfully, the Ultra Deluxe version actually makes fun of that fact, which is one of my favorite moments in the whole game. At the same time, I can also see why maybe you wouldn't like Stanley Parable because it's a very deep game. Like, not deep in terms of gameplay mechanics, it's about as simple as you can get. You just walk around and click on stuff. Sometimes you don't even need to click on stuff. Sometimes you just walk to the right place and it gets you an ending. But the game is trying to teach you a message about video games, and if you don't understand those messages, then you're not going to like the game at all. It would be like if you're the type of person who doesn't like philosophy and you play a game that tackles a bunch of philosophical concepts, you're not going to enjoy that game to begin with. So that's essentially what Stanley Parable is. It's a giant commentary. And if you don't like commentaries, you're just going to say, forget this. This is out of my league. But I don't really like philosophical stuff, and Stanley Parable gets philosophical at times, and I still found it great. But I think that's because the new stuff that was added to Ultra Deluxe, and don't worry, Peggle, it'll be very obvious which stuff is from the old game and which stuff is new. You won't have any doubt once you get there. The game will like literally spell it out for you. And that stuff was just so hilarious that my mom thought I was crying because I was laughing so hard. Oh yeah, Stanley Parable is very replayable because it has so many endings, and then like sometimes going back to an area with the new stuff being taken into account can like cause something different to happen. And then there's also a really cool surprise you get at the end that like gives the game more longevity. And so it's just constantly giving you more reasons to go back to it. And Kevin Brighting is just such a good voice actor that sometimes even just the way he says his lines just makes me chuckle. Whew. So one thing I was going to ask you guys is I was curious if you had any games you wanted to recommend to me. However, keep in mind that I prefer to rent games as opposed to buying them. So if it's a digital only game, I will probably hold off on getting it. And I also might hold off if I think my common sense is like, I don't know if this is the kind of game for me. Like if you recommended Bayonetta, I'd probably say, no, I don't think I want to have a witch that's obsessed with her own sexuality to tackle angels. That doesn't sit right with me. But if you said something like, hey, Paul, I found this game that is very much like Fire Emblem, then I'd probably say, oh, yeah, sure. I actually did try Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, Matthew, and I gave up on it after a while. I don't remember why. I think it was because it got too confusing and too samey, or maybe because other games came out around that time, and I was just like, it's not as good as the other ones. What consoles do I have? I have the Switch, obviously, 3DS, Wii U. I used to have a Wii, but it broke. So now I use my Wii U as the Wii. A GameCube, a Nintendo 64, and I think my sister has a DS, but I'm not sure. So yeah. And my sister also has an Xbox 360, but I don't really play that much. I used it for Sonic Generations, and that was about it. Brain Age. I tried playing Brain Age. That game was a nightmare because it wouldn't read my commands properly. I would like be very clearly speaking into the microphone and somehow it just would not register what I was saying. So I just said, "Oh, forget this. If it can't even detect that I'm giving the right answer, then it's not worth my time." Hey there, Louie. Glad you could make it. Hope I didn't scare you off. No, definitely not Trauma Center because my worst fear is needles. So that is a game that would probably have me literally screaming. I can't say I know what you're talking about, Jevil. So how have you been doing, Louis? What's been your latest thing? I meant the last time, like the last time you came to my stream, as soon as I started talking about controversial stuff, you just happened to leave. I just thought, is that a coincidence? Or did he just not heed the pinned warning of this channel? Because my gosh, if there's one thing that I do actually give myself credit for, on my live streams, it's that I feel like I can say whatever I want. And because I've got the warning, people expect me to be like that. And if I offend people, then I'll say, it's your own fault. I warned you that I talk like that. Migdo14. Welcome to the channel. Glad you could make it. I don't think I've ever seen you around in my comment sections for my video games, so welcome in. If you haven't been around my channel, my name's Paul. I am a guy. I might look like a girl, but I assure you I'm a guy. And I primarily specialize in video game reviews. Sometimes I like making lists about my video games. And I also like talking about psychology. But I also every now and then just like to do whatever I feel like. Like I did a vlog when I went on vacation to meet another YouTuber. I did a reenactment of when I first saw Banjo and Kazooie getting in Smash. So yeah, just a variety channel, I would say. So let's see. To answer your question, I do not know what Blasphemous is. You'll have to explain that to me. If it's a shooter, I probably wouldn't play it because I am awful at shooters. I just, for me, it doesn't seem, I don't seem to know how to rack my brain around the concept of aiming a gun and aiming a character at the same time. I guess it just feels too much like the type of multitasking I'm not good at. Brain Age concentration training. If I didn't even like the first Brain Age, why would I like concentration training? Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess in this modern era, I keep forgetting that it's no longer customary to announce that you're heading out. I guess I have to get used to people in the modern age just needing to go. Okay, I got it. Or maybe that's just your personality, whereas mine is more like I think it's courteous to mention that I have to leave. I don't know. I don't think there's a definitive answer here. So you do you. I'm not going to judge either way. Welcome back, JP. We have a new person here in our chat. This person's name is Migdo14. Hope you will all make Migdo feel welcome. Do you have a nickname I should give you? And also, would you like to, and how do I say this without coming across as a total jerk? Would you like to tell us about yourself? What should we know? And I'm sure you saw the pinned warning, so we're a bit on the politically correct side. So we go by I'm a guy or I'm a girl around here. We don't really do the in between kind of stuff because biology just doesn't make that possible. I'm sure you guys have taken more than enough sex education classes to know that. Antivirus? Oh, that? I would prefer not to talk about that just because I don't like talking about needles. So if they maybe make like a drink or a pill that I can take, then maybe, I don't know, I'd have to do some research, but nope, that's the main reason why I haven't gotten one of those is because I'm just too much of a crybaby. So, Jeffel, earlier you mentioned Sonic Frontiers. I was gonna ask that, but I sort of had a little bit of of a brain blanking moment. I'm actually pretty excited about Sonic Frontiers because one, I like exploration, and I always like exploration games that let you go fast. So that's why I really love the rolling mechanic in Super Mario Odyssey. But seeing as Sonic is already fast, like that's already going to be a thing. Oh, welcome back, Peggle. I don't know if you noticed, but we have a new member in our stream. This person's name is Migdo14. Hope you will welcome this person. Um, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, getting back to Sonic Frontiers. I think it's got a lot of potential for being a throwback to Sonic Generations because it has the old zones that you can travel to, and then it also has like an open world. Well, I don't really allow profanity here on my channel, Louis. So if you could maybe censor that so that it doesn't have the the swear words, that would be great. You didn't even notice what, Caitlin? I'm sorry. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. What was I saying? So I think a lot of people are immediately thinking that Sonic Frontiers is going to be a disaster because Sonic Origins had so many bugs. I'm going to go in with an open mind because I think Sonic Origins and Sonic Colors Ultimate were as bad as they were because Sega doesn't know how to handle remaking a game. Sure, they know how to port it really well, but Origins and Sonic Colors Ultimate were remade from a new source code as opposed to being a like Sonic Mega Collection was just a bunch of emulations, but Sonic Origins they like rebuilt the game with a new engine. So that's where they just don't know how to do it. Better, I would still prefer you to just talk like a well, I guess I can't say a regular person because nowadays profanity is such a common usage, but talk like a gentleman. But like be yourself at the same time. I know it sounds like a paradox, but uh, in my day, profanity was considered something that was very immature and used only by people that couldn't handle their emotions and couldn't like get themselves under control. Usually for me, one thing that I recommend for people that need profanity uh profanity guidance is I just say just replace the swear word with something that's not so that it becomes funny instead of something that reminds you of something else. Like for example, I usually say peanut butter in exchange for swear words. Much better. I mean, if you want to say like, "My gosh, Sonic Boom was terrible." I actually did play a little bit of Fire and Ice, and it was okay. It's not nearly as good as Sonic Mania or Sonic 3. Your turn, Peggle. After he's done. Now we just gotta work on you saying, I don't know, the next time you want to swear at me, just say like, "Oh gosh darn peanut butter ball." What's Peggle's excuse? Is it because she's is it because she's young and therefore young people are like emotionally volatile? I don't know. I feel like the thing about profanity is it's kind of like it becomes kind of habitual after a while. And you kind of if you haven't been trained to say profanity, it's easy to filter yourself. But if you have been, like, if no one's ever told you off or like specifically said you should watch your language, then I don't know. I feel like there's just the level of discipline is significantly less than what I experienced when I was young. Biscuit is good. But you know what? To be fair to you, Peggle, at least you don't make a whole lot of dirty jokes. That is one thing I will give you credit for, and I appreciate that. So, even if you swear a lot, at least you're well, decent makes it sound like you're only an okay person, but like you don't make a whole lot of sex jokes, you don't make a whole lot of innuendos. So that's good. Now, I think people think that Catholics aren't allowed to talk about sex at all, and that's just blatantly untrue. Like, we have a whole book called Theology of the Body, which is all about the beauty of sex. It's just that we see sex as something that's specific for a time and a place, and it shouldn't be just thrown out there casually like you would throw out a drink of water. Like, you should be able to take responsibility for your mistakes and exercise caution and maturity. And again, we're human beings, so as humans, I'm sorry, Peggle, but just the way you said that made me laugh so much. I don't know why. Oh, hey, when you take the G of Peggle's kidding and the P at the start of Peggle in Louis's previous message, it sounds like it's saying PG. So is that saying that Peggle's only PG? Yes, absolutely, Peggle. Sex after marriage. Indeed, you know me too well. That works, Jevil. That totally works. So, one thing that I think people misconstrue about the Catholic Church is that we hate people that don't immediately conform to just simply male attracted to female and vice versa. So, how that started, Louis, was I think the way you type is so much like how Skyly does, where she doesn't really correct her grammar a whole lot, and she often doesn't capitalize her letters. So I was thinking that you typed so much like her that I started thinking that you were Skyly in disguise. And also just I love giving Skyly a hard time. Just because she was one of the OG Peggle followers. Like in the old days, Peggle started out by just streaming Skyrim, and it was just me and Skyly, and every now and then Peggle's friend came along. So, like, because Skyly has been around longer than anyone else on Peggle's channel, I guess I've like joked around with her and Peggle more than I've joked around with the rest of you. So we've sort of we've sort of developed. Yup, the icon of tuna was priceless. So, oh, Jevil, do not get me started on your grammar. Do not get me started on your grammar, or I will not be politically correct about it. Anyway, um, so for those of you that weren't there for that stream, so Peggle was streaming Grand Theft Auto 5, and I'm sure most of you know that I'm sure most of you know that Grand Theft Auto 5 isn't exactly the most appropriate game out there. It has a lot of profanity, a lot of violence, a lot of sex, a lot of pretty much everything that you can think of that's like the definition of inappropriate. It has it. I don't know if it has nudity though. I think there was one scene where a character got nude and the camera like panned away, but it has pretty much everything else. So Peggle was like using a bunch of profanity and you know, the characters are making all these sex jokes, and so it was like this super inappropriate time during the game, and Skyly is like hasn't said anything for so long, and finally Skyly just bursts, "I caught a tuna in Animal Crossing," and we just lost it because it was just so wholesome compared to what the ga- the game was doing that we that's like become Skyly's catchphrase now. And so when Peggle was streaming Metopia, now sometimes when Skyly's character when, when Skyly's character would do like a good command, she'd shout, "I caught a tuna." Oh yeah. I still laugh so much. Oh, don't worry, Jevil. I plan on bringing back that Isabel joke sometime this year for one of my upcoming videos next month. You wait for it. It'll be coming. Wait, Caitlin, you've played Grand Theft Auto or you've just heard about it? I'm not judging you if you want to play it. I don't think the Catholic Church actually bans any video games because video games are what's called interactive media. So therefore, one, they can differ between person, and two, they are it's complicated. But let's just say that the church basically asks that you use your conscience and don't use video games as an excuse to do bad things or get into bad habits. When do I need your well, it's not a secret what video I'm doing, so you can go ahead and mention it. I'm doing a video, and hey, if you guys want to join this is the perfect time to message and say, "Sure, Paul, I'll do it too." So what I'm doing is I'm doing a Friends' best games of 2022 because I like to do my favorite games of the year. I've been doing it every year on my YouTube channel since 2018. So this will be the fifth annual best games of the year list that I've done. But I realized that every single best games of the year list is going to have controversies because people will say, "Why didn't you have my favorite game on there?" So I'm having my friends talk about their favorite games about 2022 so that if I miss any good games, they can say their favorite games. And I'm just going to put them all together into one giant video. So I've got Splatcat. She's going to be talking about Splatoon 3 because I'm not a shooter guy. Pegasus Angel is going to be talking about Unichrome because she wants to give more credit to the underdogs. And she also calls herself the cringe unicorn girl. Yubi's doing Pokemon Legends Arceus because I hate Pokemon. And as for you, Peggle, I think I would prefer if you could give me your bit about Sparks of Hope by the end of November. So, like, even if you get it to me on the last day of November, just sometime before December would be much appreciated. You don't have to do Sparks of Hope if you don't want to, but if that's still the game you want to do, then go for it. Just saying that if you do Sparks of Hope and it ends up being on my list of best games, I'm still going to include your part anyway, just because, I don't know, maybe you might have different opinions on it than I do. Louis, if you want to, you can talk. Well, okay, I should clarify. If you're at least 18, because I used to be a chaperone at high school and middle school events, and as part of the contract that I signed in order to be part of that, one of the agreements was you cannot be getting into private messages with minors. Now, I have heard that there's a loophole where if you're in a public setting, it's okay because generally speaking, a person who's actually a pedophile or a molester likes to do things in secret. So that's why like streams are okay, Discord servers are okay, as long as it's not a private message or a private texting. It has to be all out in the open. Okay, cool. Yeah, if there's a game you want to talk about, you can either send me a script or send me a video or send me both because Yubi's only sending me a script. She's not sending me a video. So if you're the type that doesn't like the sound of your own voice or what you look like, then you can just write out what you want me to say. Yeah, I'm certainly not going to be spoiler alert guys, no Pokemon games will be on my list this year. Yeah, I don't mind if you do security breach on my channel. Just, how do I word this? Actually, no. I don't have any excuses. If it's a friend's game of the year, it doesn't have to be on a Nintendo system. What games do I want covered? A game that came out in 2022. That's the only guideline I have. It can be whatever you want as long as it's a 2022 release. And you can get creative with that if you want to. You could, for instance, talk about Banjo Kazooie because Banjo Kazooie came on the Switch in 2022. Even though it's technically a 1998 game, the Switch Online version was a 2022 release. So that's literally the only thing you need. Isabel did a mini review. So it was structured in such a way that she was kind of just rambling about her opinions of it. It didn't really talk about the gameplay too much. It didn't really have a whole lot of critiques. It didn't fit the specifications of someone trying to help do an educated guess as to whether you should buy it or not, which is the whole point of a review is here is the facts of the game, and we are going to tell you if we think that it is worth it. Isabel didn't really do either. She kind of just said, this is what I think about it. These are some of the Christian themes that I've spotted. This is what I like about it. And as a result, I felt like it counted because I have a rule on my channel. I don't review games that are on non Nintendo systems. If you want to do a major review, I guess you can. I might be a bit uneasy about it though, because I like to stick to the non Nintendo stuff, but maybe write it down and then, like, if it ever comes to Switch, I'll say, Peggle, I need your review now. Yes, if you want to do, as long as it came out in 2022, like, you can't do Ocarina of Time because that was a 2021 Switch release. But if you want to do Majora's Mask, that can work. I think Paper Mario came out in 2022. Banjo Kazooie, the Mario Party games. Yep, those all count. Yeah, the Switch is, it's one of those, it's all about patience. Yeah, if you actually do it. Caitlin, you also have quite a few games that you like. I don't know if you've played any that came out in 2022, though, but if you have a good one, you know how to contact me. Fall Guys counts because it came on the Switch in 2022. So yes, you can do something on Fall Guys, not a problem. Are you talking about Fall Guys, Louie? No one's doing Nintendo Switch Sports. Originally, you were going to do it, Peggle, but then you changed your mind because you got bored of it. You changed your mind quite a lot because then you were going to do Disney Dreamlight Valley, and now you want to do Sparks of Hope. So, like, yes, Paper Mario counts. You can do that totally. I mean, hey, I love Paper Mario. I love Paper Mario 2 even more, but Paper Mario 1 is still a very close second in the series. So, if there's an excuse to get more people to be aware of that masterpiece, I mean, if you want to do Call to the Lamb, that's totally cool, as long as you capture the footage for it. Oh, Thousand Year Door is a masterpiece. There is one thing I will say about Thousand Year Door to its detriment. Actually, there's a couple of things I don't like about it. I don't want you guys thinking, Paul, you talk about Paper Mario 2 so much. You must think that the game is flawless. No, I don't think it's flawless. First of all, the game's music is terrible. There's, I think, maybe two good music tracks in the whole game, but like Paper Mario 1 has a vastly superior soundtrack, in my opinion. Like Paper Mario 1, I can still hum some of those tunes, but Paper Mario 2, yuck. I always hate it whenever people play music from that game. I don't like the fact that there's quite a lot of adult content. Now, to a certain extent, I like it, but I think Paper Mario 2 should have gotten a higher age rating if they were going to include all that stuff. Like, if they were going to have so many scenes where I think Peach strips naked at least 3 or 4 times in the game, and at one point you even control her while she's naked. So, I didn't mean to spoil anything there, guys, but like, I want people to be aware that it got the lowest age rating here in America, and yet it has nudity in it. And if you want to say, well, yeah, yeah, Peach actually does get nude on quite a few occasions. There's one of Mario's party members wears nothing but a necklace, and her breasts are clearly showing. So there's a topless party member. There's a hangman's noose in the opening area. Yep, Mario game with nudes. You got it. Mario himself, like, borderline has profanity. Paper Mario 2 has a lot of adult stuff. I mean, some people make the excuse, well, Mario's partner is a cloud, so therefore it doesn't count if she's topless. And I say, she's not wearing a shirt either, and it's very clear that they're like female breasts. They're not like anything else. She's not like an octopus or something. So maybe if she was like wearing a dress or something, but the thing is, and then she like flirts with Mario and does like a very suggestive pose. There's a lot of girls that flirt with Mario in that game. And apparently in the Japanese version, it was even worse. There was a body outline in one of the buildings. There's a trans character who was bullied because she wanted to be a he, and her sisters were like, "You're a girl, so stop saying that you're not." But in the American version, they censored that out so that they just thought that she was ugly and clumsy, and there were no mentions of her being a guy at all. There's not even a hint of it in the American version. She's just she calls herself Vivian, and she's just, yeah. She's actually one of the tamer parts of the game. Now, I'm not saying this to make you guys not want to play Paper Mario 2. I just think that people should be aware that it should not get the lowest age rating. Top 10 Mario girls? Can't say I have. And aside from all the adult stuff in it, there's also the fact that it has a lot of backtracking. Mario doesn't have an option to run faster. There's a partner that he gets that helps him run faster later, but that also is very inconvenient because you have to trigger that partner's abilities and trigger it off when you want to do something else. And then there's also the fact that in Paper Mario 1, you had a button that let Mario do a spin dash to like slightly speed things along. So while you're backtracking, you often have to walk at a consistent speed. And at one point, you're forced to walk at the same speed and not use your partner to make you go faster. Just to name one example, I'm not going to mention any story specifics here so that you guys won't get spoiled, but there's one point where you're told to go to a certain place. We'll call the place A to avoid spoilers. So you're told get from entrance to place A. But then something happens at place A. So then to fix it, you have to go back to entrance town to get what you need to fix it. Then with that thing, you go back to place A to finally fix things once and for all. Why wasn't there a shortcut to just quickly warp back to place A? The game does have warp pipes that let you fast travel, but even with the warp pipes, there's a lot of really pathetic fetch quests that involve you searching for someone only for you to find out that that person returned to the area when you were first at because that person was looking for you. And it's like, why? Was that just done to pad out the game? What the heck? But apart from that, Paper Mario 2 is one of the best games I've ever played. It has such funny writing. Bowser is like one of the best he's ever been. The battle mechanics are really creative and inventive, and it does a really great job providing a much more adult oriented narrative in a Mario game. It's very creative. It's very it lets you play it the way you want. It lets you customize your stats and your abilities to such a degree that most Mario games just don't do. And it's not set in the Mushroom Kingdom either, so it has a lot of scenic variety. I did play Super Paper Mario and I reviewed it. I the only Paper Mario games I haven't reviewed are Color Splash, Sticker Star, and Dream Team, but that's technically a Mario and Luigi game. The only thing I liked about Super Paper Mario was the story and the writing, and some of the settings were pretty good too. Like, I really liked the underwear. That was pretty hilarious. I just didn't like the gameplay. I didn't like the fact that you had to play it with a Wii remote held sideways. That definitely was probably a byproduct of the fact that it was originally going to be a GameCube game, but then they scrapped development and made it a Wii exclusive after the Wii came out. So I feel like there were a lot of parts of that game that felt forced. Like, why couldn't they have used a nunchuck? Was it just because the GameCube was one controller, so they had to cram everything on a Wii remote? There were parts where the game just didn't feel good to control. The partners were underutilized. The writing was good, and the story was fantastic. And Francis, of course, Francis stole the show. Like, if you guys haven't seen Francis yet, I highly recommend you look him up if you're not worried about spoilers, because a lot of people have said that Francis was the precursor to Papyrus. And I won't say any more from there, but once you see what his deal is, especially his scene with Peach in it, you will say, "Oh my gosh!" So that's where Toby got the inspiration from. I've also heard that Super Paper Mario in general is just kind of like a giant Undertale parody before Undertale, but I'm not sure how much credence that holds. Yeah, I didn't really like Paper Jam that much. Peggle! It's about time you started listening to me. I've been telling you to get into Paper Mario for eons. If you were excited about the Mario movie, you should be doubly excited to play Paper Mario because there are these really grand scale adventures that like take the Mario series in new directions. Paper Mario 1 in particular was known as Mario Story in Japan. So obviously in Japan their focus was Mario games that actually have a narrative. I don't want to give too much away, but let's just say that you actually are forced to lose the very first battle, and that's the premise of the whole game, is because you lost that first battle, now you're going on an adventure to beat that battle. And how many Mario games, I think Odyssey is the only one I can think of, where like Mario starts out the game in an intense battle, loses, and then trains the rest of the game to fight back against Bowser. That's basically how Paper Mario starts. And that did that 16 years before Mario Odyssey came out. Yes, play the first one. I mean, technically, you could play Paper Mario 2 first, but that's like so hard to find and it's never been ported. So if you don't have a GameCube or a Wii, oh, the good luck finding it. But Paper Mario 1 is a very Paper Mario 1 is a very newbie-friendly RPG. It was specifically designed because at the time, RPGs like Final Fantasy were very common and they were called too hard for the casual audiences. So Paper Mario was made to be like a beginner's RPG that was also familiar to people who were familiar with Mario. So you'll get to see a whole new side of Bowser. You'll be able to see a whole new side to Peach, a whole new side to Luigi. It's just absolutely amazing how much this game just pushes what you thought was possible in a Mario narrative. And it gives you a lot of customization options too. And it has really good music and graphics for a Nintendo 64 game. Like, the Paper Mario art style is just so timeless that it doesn't even look dated. Like most N64 games, you think to yourself, ugh, this is what we put up with back then. But I think if Paper Mario 1 had come out today, the only thing they would have really needed to do is make it in HD, and it probably would have been mistaken for a 2022 game. It seriously holds up that well in the graphics department. Like, even the water, like, I would say, like, even the water is so good that it could be mistaken for modern water. Like, even the later Paper Mario games have worse water than this one. Poor Luigi in Paper Mario 1. Yeah, that is unfortunate. But if you know the trick, you can read Luigi's diary. And I'm sure Peg would love to know what deep, dark secrets Luigi has hiding down in his closet. So there you go, Peggle. Now you've got my whole chat going full on play Paper Mario, Peggle. That almost that almost sounded like an alliteration there. Like, now we gotta start a chant and a march and a cult and a brainwashing and, like, beam into your mind the awesomeness of Paper Mario so that you can say, "What have I been missing out on? In here, I thought Mario games were always about Bowser kidnaps Peach. That's all there is to it." We convinced her, guys. Oh, I feel so happy now. I feel so happy. And okay, I will tell you one thing that I don't like about Paper Mario, but I think in your case, Peggle, you'll probably appreciate it. And that's that I think Paper Mario 1 starts out kind of slow. It definitely takes its time, feeling like it's not on autopilot. But I think the reason why it does that is because people who haven't played RPGs are probably going to need to familiarize themselves with the systems that it teaches. And so seeing the game play itself is probably like the best thing to a tutorial video. And then once you're given the option to play it for yourself, then you're like, oh, now that I've seen the game doing it, now I can do it. And of course, the enemies start out really easy. Like, you just start out facing a couple of Goombas. And I would say this game is way easier than Sparks of Hope, Peggle. Like, even on the easiest difficulty, I would say Sparks of Hope is significantly harder than Paper Mario. Like, Sparks of Hope has a lot of really big numbers, but in Paper Mario, you're lucky enough to get past a 5 in terms of how much damage you do to the enemies. Most of the enemies, like, starting out, most of the enemies have 2 health max, and your starting attack damage is 1. And if you have a power up, then you can do 3 points of damage. And so that in and of itself simplifies things a lot because it's like, oh, if the enemy has 2 health and I have 1 attack, then it'll take 2 attacks to bring down the enemy. And you start out by only being able to jump, but then you get a hammer. So then all you really need to ask yourself is hammers can only hit enemies in front of you and on the ground. A jump can hit any enemy, but it's not good if the enemy has a spike or electricity or fire. And that's really all you need to know, that and when to use items and when to use your partner. So that's like 3 basic things to keep in mind. And of course, the game gives you tutorials galore, gives you options to skip the tutorials. But yeah, The game, like, literally says, "I am going to tell you how to do all this stuff, and I'm going to give you the option to say no if you don't wanna learn about that." Yeah, Paper Mario 1 has quite a lot of, characters that are more than just background characters. I do wish the partners got a little bit more development, but they get significantly more development than most Mario characters do, so I'll give them a pass for that. You guys are making me laugh. I don't know why. It's just funny. Peggle, if you're already attached to Bowser, then you're gonna love Bowser in Paper Mario. Granted, he like steps it up a notch in Paper Mario 2, but he's good enough in Paper Mario 1. He definitely has his moments that are like, okay, Paper Mario 1 is the antithesis of Bowser's Fury. Like in Bowser's Fury, you're just told, hey, Bowser's covered in goop. That's making him mad. Let's stop him. In Paper Mario 1, there's a cutscene and dialogue that shows why Bowser is the way that he is. And then there's later revelations that say why Bowser's doing what he's doing. And so you get to hear Bowser's motivation and his desires and how he got to the point where he was and why it's causing damage and how if Mario doesn't stop Bowser, what long-term side effects are going to happen. So there's already so much narrative and it's not a complicated narrative by any means. It's a newbie's RPG, of course, and RPGs are known for having really complex stories, but it's still way better of a story than Bowser's Fury. Like, it actually takes its time to explain things and develop the characters, and no voice acting, unfortunately, but, uh, it does have quite a lot of reading. So if you're used to games like Danganronpa, you'll probably be right at home in Paper Mario. Yeah, mobile games, have never really been a thing for me, but hey, if they work for you, kudos for you, Jevil. The only mobile games I've ever played are Super Mario Run and Fire Emblem Heroes. I didn't really like either of those games. I thought Super Mario Run was okay, but it wasn't good enough for me to purchase the rest of it because you get like the first couple of levels for free. No, I've only played Among Us on the Switch. I didn't really like that that much either. Oh, Matt Pat. Gotta love his theories. MatPat doesn't really talk a lot about Paper Mario 1. It's mostly Super Paper Mario that I think he talks about. Well, guys, I'm getting kind of tired, so I think I might call it here. My throat's getting kind of sore and I'm almost out of water, and I'm also just tired in general. So so just a reminder, and this will be your chance, guys, to say your goodbyes. Peggle, make sure to get me your recording or script done by the end of November. If anyone else wants to submit something, let me know by the end of November. And hope I can get through the ending because I'm so tired. Thank you so much for all of you coming. I really enjoyed having you all here. Thank you for being able to adapt on the fly to me nearly forgetting my own stream. Glad you could make it. Victor and Caitlin and Louie and Jevil and Peggle and Matthew and JP. And I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Oh, and Mike, it was so long ago. Micro 14, Micro 14, something like that. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. So I hope to see you all next Monday, assuming something doesn't coming up, assume just something doesn't come up. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.